There are 3 different methods that calculate when seasons end and when they begin, and these are the astrological, the meteorological, and also the traditional British Isles way / Celtic way if we're looking at the more pre-Christian understanding of when seasons begin, and these are really closely associated with the agricultural seasons. So I'm going to break down the start and end of each season according to the 3 different methods so that you can figure out the best way to calculate the beginning and end of seasons that works for you where you live. So the one most familiar to most viewers will probably be the astrological way of understanding when seasons begin and end, and this is set by understanding the Earth's relation and position to the sun. So spring begins on the spring equinox and ends really the day before or just at that moment when we switch over to the summer solstice. Summer solstice begins the season of summer, and that leads us to the autumn equinox. The autumn equinox then will bring us to the winter solstice, and the winter solstice will guide us into the spring equinox. So basically the seasons are attached to the equinoxes and the solstices, and again it's about the Earth's position and relation to the sun. Next up is the meteorological, and this calendar is more set up based on the temperature cycle that happens in the northern hemisphere. Again, I should have mentioned at the top of the video that the dates I'm sharing are for the northern hemisphere, but if you live in the southern hemisphere, you're just going to want to really reverse them. With this calendar, March 1st marks the beginning of spring, and this goes until May 31st. Summer begins on June 1st and ends August 31st. Autumn September 1st to November 30th, and winter begins December 1st and ends February 28th or the 29th if there's a lunar year. This system may be more close to how the seasons feel to change for you depending on where you live. Lastly, I'm going to be sharing the traditional British Isles / Celtic understanding of when seasons began and when seasons ended, and this is more closely tied to the agricultural calendar of that specific place within the world and how agricultural work would have to be done during certain months. So we have spring beginning February 1st, and it goes until April 30th. Summer begins May 1st and goes until July 31st. Autumn begins August 1st and it ends on August 31st, and winter begins November 1st and ends on January 31st. So depending on which understanding of the seasons you have, we may already be in autumn or we are approaching autumn. Some things you may want to think about when you're considering when does the season change where I live is, are you looking at more temperature-based ideas of the season or a landscape idea of a season? That is, for instance, when you're thinking about autumn, is it when the leaves have fallen, or is it when the leaves just begin to fall? If you do a lot of gardening work, I think it makes a lot of sense if you look at the seasons more related to agriculture where you live. When do you need to start planting the seeds? When is the harvest season where you live? What I find really interesting about this is it's not as simple as perhaps I used to think of when the seasons start. And with the effects of climate change, we may really want to rethink how we approach the seasons and how we understand when they start and when they end. So below, share with me how you mark the beginning of seasons, and do you follow more an agricultural calendar, an astrological one, or a meteorological one? I personally am really rethinking my relationship to the seasons and when I'm going to start to mark the changes that occur. Thanks so much for spending time with Gently Being.